Hello team and welcome back to the channel. Today you are going to learn how to build and deploy a multi-tier application that is having a database. That means you are also going to learn how to connect a database to your application. And we are going to do completely from scratch. We are going to use Terraform to set up EKS cluster. We are going to set up all the servers, Nexus, SonarQube, Jenkins, and we are going to write the pipeline from scratch. Now coming to the best part of this video is that we are going to first, once we have deployed the application, we'll be having a load balancer URL to access the application over browser. But obviously that load balancer URL is quite big and it's not easy to remember, right? So for that, first of all, we are going to do what? We are going to set up a custom domain and we are going to map it to our load balancer URL so that we'll be able to access our application using a very user-friendly URL, something like 𝗖cie.com, 𝗁𝗃𝗃𝗃, something like that, which is easy to remember. But important thing is that we need to make sure that the URL that we are going to use to access our application should be secure. That means we need to make sure that our URL is working with HTTPS instead of HTTP. Okay, because if as you know that HTTPS is kind of secure, right? So that also we have to configure, and for that we need to configure the SSL certificates. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. Now, one thing you need to understand that configuring SSL certificates can be done in so many different ways. So one of the easy way that I'm going to show you today, and in future upcoming videos I'm going to show more different ways so that you can learn completely and all the different ways how we can do that. Okay, so yeah, make sure to check out this whole video because I don't want you to miss out any of the steps. And yeah, if you are completely new on the channel, make sure to subscribe. Now with that being said, let's get started. So team, yeah, this is the application that we are going to work with multi-tier, and this application is having a MySQL database also, so that you can learn how we are going to connect our MySQL database. Okay, out of that, most important thing that you should be doing in this application, first of all, make sure that you are on main branch. Make sure. Next, go to src, go to main, and here you will find resources folder, inside which we have application.properties. This file contains the configuration information about the database. So when we are going to deploy our application inside Kubernetes, we can use these details. Okay, so just remember that the database configuration is mentioned in that application.properties file. Okay, now in order to get started, first of all, I'm going to create one virtual machine which will be like a central server from where we are going to perform different things. Okay, so I'm creating a virtual machine and version will be 24.04 LTS version, which is one of the latest. And instance type, I'm going to select T2 medium. Keep here we can select, and then security group. Now see, which security group you should be selecting basically. Let me show you the ports that I have opened on my machine. So let me show you. Here we can go to security groups, and here you can go to primary, and here these are the ports open in my inbound rules. Okay, now coming back to machine creation. So yeah, storage, I'm going to go with 24 now. Click on launch instance. Now this is the instance from where we can get started by creation of EKS cluster. Okay, using Terraform. So first thing that we have to do, open that instance, get the public IP address, because this is what we are going to utilize to connect to it. Why we are not using private? Because we are going to connect from our personal laptop, and personal laptop and this virtual machine, they are not in the same network. Okay, so I'll use public IP. We can go to MobaXterm. You know that it is free and it works much better. Okay, let me create. Yeah, first we need to click on session, SSH, IP address, and username. So we have created Ubuntu machine, that means username is going to be Ubuntu. Then advanced SSH, and here click on private key, because we are going to use private key for connecting to our machine. Okay, yeah, one more thing team, if you are completely new and you are not aware that from where we can get private key. Okay, before that, let me just rename this to server. Yeah. Okay, so talking about where you can get private key, basically if you are creating the virtual machine, for example, let's say I click on launch instance. Here you will find one option, keep here, right? In case you are having on your local, it will pop up here. If you are doing it for the first time, click on create new key pair, provide a name, make sure it's RSA and make sure it's PEM, and you can click on create new key pair. Then it will download that key pair on your machine. Okay, now so what has happened just now, we have created our virtual machine, first virtual machine, right? So first thing that you are supposed to do, run the command sudo apt update. This will update all the packages within the default Linux repository so that they are available for usage. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. Okay, now basically in order to like get started with Terraform, so the process that we need to follow, let me explain you that as well. See, let's say this is my AWS account, and from here inside here we can set up EKS, and I want to use Terraform, right? So Terraform is installed on a virtual machine that I have just created. So first we need to install AWS CLI. Okay, this will help us to authenticate with our AWS account. Once we have authenticated, then we can run Terraform commands to create EKS, right? Because this authentication is mandatory, because then only we will be able to create our EKS cluster from this virtual machine. Okay, so first thing we need to do is install AWS CLI. That we can do. If I show you here, this is the command that we are going to utilize to install AWS CLI. I'll copy this and I can run it here. Okay. Now the thing is, once you install AWS CLI and when you try to authenticate from this virtual machine to your AWS account, you need some credentials. From where do we get it? So for that you need to go to your AWS account and see two ways you can do. Either you can create a specific user in IAM, provide certain roles, and then use its credential. For demo purpose, I'm going to go with my root account, click on security credentials, and here we need to create a username, basically credential. Okay, not username password, because that's different. So I'll remove the previous one so I can create completely fresh. Let me delete this. Okay, and now click on create access key and create it. Now the username password will be here. In case you don't want to forget it, you can just download the credentials in CSV file. Okay, now here what we have to do now is run the command AWS configure, and now it's going to ask us the credential provide. So first we have AWS access key, which we can get from here, right? Copy this secret access key. It is the actual credential, so I will copy that and paste it here. Okay, then region. So you need to put the region in which you want to work with. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the region which is nearest to me, which is Asia Pacific Mumbai, AP-South-1. Okay, make sure that you are putting the region name as the one that is very nearest to you. Okay, do this and just click enter. Now we are connected to our AWS account from this virtual machine. Now we can run Terraform commands to create the cluster. So for that we need to make sure that we have Terraform installed. Okay, as you can see, Terraform is not present, but we get the command to install it, and make sure to add ---- classic, because if not, you are going to get error. What error? Let me show you. You can see the error is coming, right? We need to add classic, so we'll be adding classic and click enter. This will install Terraform. Meanwhile, Terraform is getting installed. We need to make sure that when we run Terraform commands, we need to have the Terraform script files, right? Where we can mention what kind of cluster we want to create, what will be the size of it, and everything. So where do we get those scripts? So for that, you need to go on my GitHub account, and also to make sure to like follow this GitHub account, because all the projects of mine will be here. Okay, so you can go to this project, full stack blogging app, and inside this you'll find one EKS Terraform folder inside which the scripts are present. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to clone this. I'm going to run command git clone, and now we can go inside the EKS folder. Okay, you can see all the Terraform files are there. Talking about how you can utilize these Terraform files, so let me show you. Everything in this Terraform file is added in the variable format. No hard coding is done. So if I open this main.tf file, the only things that you need to modify, first of all, make sure the region you are selecting the correct one as per your own, right? After that, yeah, availability zones. So based on your region, you need to make sure that the availability zones that you are providing is same as your region. Okay, and that is the only thing that you have to modify in main.tf file. After that, you need to go to variables, and here you need to provide the private key name that you have. Okay, in my case, see, if I show you, I go to music, AWS key, you can see this is the devops.pem file, right? So based on that, you need to provide this name here, and that's all the changes that you have to do, nothing else. So now we are going to run the command terraform init, which is going to initialize all the required files for Terraform to work and whatever, like run the different commands. Okay, that is done. Next command that we can run is terraform plan, just to check out what are the resources that is going to get created, because this terraform command is going to create, you can see here, 17 resources. It's going to create IAM roles and so many other things also. Okay, so once we know this, we can run our final command to create the resources, terraform apply. And here, in order to automate it completely so that there is no prompt coming, for example, if I press enter, it's going to ask us for final permission so that it can proceed. You can see here, enter a value, right? So in this case, if you don't want that prompt should be coming, you can simply add ---- auto dash approve. This will make sure that no prompt comes and Terraform can immediately proceed for creation of the resources. Okay, in our case, EKS cluster. Click enter, and let's wait for the confirmation. You can see it has started to create the resources. You can see what are the things creating. IAM role is getting created. Okay, now based on your net speed and based on your virtual machine size, this will take some time, around like 5 to 10 minutes it may take. Okay, so meanwhile this is getting done, what we can do, we can set up our other tools like Jenkins, SonarQube and Nexus. Okay, so again we'll go to EC2 instance and we are going to create instances. Okay, click on launch instance, and here, yeah, first time total 3 instances I have to create. One SonarQube, one Nexus and one Jenkins. For SonarQube and Nexus, I can create virtual machines with the size of T2 medium. That will be more than enough. Okay, that's why I'm creating 2 machines for now. Here we'll go with T2 medium, and security group, again the one that I showed you. Storage, to each of one of them I'm giving 20. Okay, creating critical launch instance. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, we have to select the key pair. See, that is one of the issues that you might face. Make sure whenever you create a resource, make sure that you are on the region nearest to you. See, by default it got changed to North Virginia. So I'm going to switch back to Mumbai, and now I'm going to create my resources. Okay, Ubuntu machine, instance type will be T2 medium, key pair will be this, and network security group will be the one that we have just created. Okay, storage I'm going to go with 20. Click on launch instance. Okay, so instance are created, we can name them immediately. First will be SonarQube, second will be Nexus. Okay, now we can connect to these machines as well. So first we are going to connect to SonarQube. I'll copy the public IP address, go here on mobile desktop, create a duplicate session. Now we can rename this to SonarQube and make sure to change the IP address to the one that we just copied. Okay, similarly one more time we have to duplicate the session, then rename this, and this time we have to get the IP address of the Nexus virtual machine. Copy that and we can paste it here. Okay, and name also we can change to Nexus. Okay, now open the terminal of those 2 machines. Okay, now we have to set up SonarQube and Nexus on this virtual machine, and we are going to set up using Docker container because that will be the easiest. Okay, so here first thing that I am going to do is sudo apt update. Remember team, this is one command that you have to run every time for the first time, because you know whenever you create a virtual machine, the first command that you should be running is sudo apt update, so that all the packages are updated and they are available for usage. Okay, and as I say, I'm going to use Docker to set up these tools, so we need to make sure that we have Docker installed. For that I can run Docker, and as we can see Docker is not present, but we get the command to install it. Okay, and I can put -y so that no prompt comes. Similarly, here also we have to do, one second, sorry, SonarQube we have to connect here. Here I can again run the command sudo apt update. Okay, and let's wait for this. Now the thing is by default when you set up Docker, by default only root user has the permission to run Docker commands. In case you want your current user to run Docker commands, two options we have. One option is that we can give permission to all the other users, or we can give specific permission only to Ubuntu user. Okay, or if you don't want to do either of them, you can simply switch to root user and now you'll be able to run Docker commands. Okay, so here only one command we have to run for Docker, so we are not going to change a specific permission. Okay, so what I can do here, I can simply use sudo docker, like sudo I can use so that I can run the Docker command. So I will run the command as sudo docker run -d for detached mode. That means -d we are adding so that the container logs while creation, it won't be visible here on the foreground, it will be in background. Okay, after that I can give a name to my container which will be Nexus 3, and after that we need to define ports. Port mapping we have to define. So here port mapping will be on host port, which is the virtual machine where we are going to create the container. I'm going to define 8081, which will be mapped to port 8081 on the container. Okay, these two ports are different. One port is on the host machine, which is the virtual machine, and second is the port on the Docker container that is going to get created. Okay, and now we have to provide the Docker image name. For Nexus, if you are new, you can simply go on Google and search for sonatype nexus.image, and first link that comes there, you will be able to find the Docker image name. So we can get it, copy that, and once you have, you can simply paste here, click enter, and this will pull the Docker image and it's going to create the container. Now one question you might be thinking, why I was saying to take minimum T2 medium, because first thing is that T2 medium is the perfect sized machine, having at least minimum 4 GB of RAM, right? And for Nexus also, see team, in case of Nexus, minimum storage that should be available 24/7 for Nexus to run is minimum 4 GB storage. Okay, now Nexus is some machine that might take little bit of time to completely get up, so we'll wait for it. Meanwhile, we can set up SonarQube container. So first we have to install Docker on this machine as well, which I can do by running this command, and let's wait for this to complete. Okay, and yeah, once we can check the status by sudo docker ps Nexus container is created, and yeah, let's wait for some time so that it comes online, because Nexus is one server that takes little bit more time as compared to others. Okay, so on SonarQube server also Docker is installed. Now we can set up the container for SonarQube. Again sudo, because I am not giving permission to Ubuntu or any other user. Sudo docker run -d name I want to give as sonar. Anything you can give, like let's say Sonar DevOps. Okay, and then again port mapping we have to define here, which is going to be 9000. First port is the host port, this virtual machine port. Second port is going to be the container port, and here we need to provide the Docker image name. In SonarQube, it's SonarQube:LTS-community. Community version is the free version of SonarQube that you can utilize. Okay, click enter, and it's going to pull the Docker image and it's going to create a container out of it. Now I believe Nexus should be completely set up, so I can try to access it. For that I can get the public IP address of the Nexus, and my Nexus will be accessible on port 8081. So I can put here as 8081, click enter, and you can see Nexus is up. But in order to completely get credentials for it, for example, you can see we have this option sign in. Click on this, and username is admin, but password will be stored on some file, this one. Okay, now we have set up Nexus using a Docker container. That means this file should be somewhere inside the container, so we have to go inside. How we can go? I can run again the command sudo docker exec -it. We are executing a command and we are creating a interactive terminal. -it means interactive terminal. We want to interact with the container through a terminal. After that, container ID, like we need to define which container we want to interact with. After that, we need to define what kind of terminal we want to interact with. So I want to interact with bash terminal. Okay, click enter, and now you see bash 4.4. This is inside the container. Okay, you can see Nexus, SonarType Nexus. These are the Nexus files, right? So here we need to go inside SonarType work Nexus 3. This is the folder where you will be able to find the admin.password file. So go inside it, run ls command, and you can see the admin.password file is present. So we will copy this. Sorry, we have to get the contents of this file, right? So I'll run cat admin.password. And here we get the initial admin password. So we can copy from here to here. Do not copy the bash. Once we have copied, you can put it here, click on sign in, and as we have signed in now. So new password, we can set up whatever we want. So just set up a new password, click on next, and yeah, this one, enable anonymous access. If you enable this, then any of the artifacts or Docker images can be downloaded without any credentials. So based on your requirement, you can enable or disable it. Okay, so I can just disable it and click on next. Okay, so Nexus is set up. Meanwhile, what I assume, like SonarQube should also be set up because the container has created, so we can try to access that as well. I can get the IP address for SonarQube virtual machine, and as you remember, it should be accessible on port 9000. Okay, and you can see it's running, right? And the default username and password for Nexus is going to be admin. Click on this. Okay, we can set up a new password. Okay, so Nexus is set up and SonarQube is set up. Third server that we have to set up is this CICD tool, which is Jenkins. For that, I'm going to create another virtual machine, but this virtual machine should be a bigger size. Okay, so let's name this. Why I need to create a bigger size machine? Because I have not set up any slave machine for this. That means I'm going to run the CI/CD pipeline on the master machine itself. So for that, I need to make sure that I have set up a bigger machine which has enough resources to handle the pipeline properly. Okay, so this one I'm going to set up T2 large. If you are going to set up a Jenkins slave machine, then you can set up one T2 medium master and one T2 medium as slave. That will be more than enough. Okay, security group we can select. Storage I'm giving 25. Click on launch instance. Okay, and now we can copy the IP address of Jenkins, create new duplicate session, rename this, and this will be named to Jenkins, and IP address is going to be this one. Click on OK. Okay, and let's access Jenkins as well. So Jenkins is also up. Okay, now again, first command you remember, sudo apt update, right? Now for Jenkins, you need to understand that the prerequisite for Jenkins is that there should be Java present on the virtual machine or any kind of machine wherever you are setting up Jenkins. That means first prerequisite is that we need to have Java on this machine. So as of now, Java is not present, but we can install it. OpenJDK 17 version, we can install it, right? Run this command and this will install Java on this virtual machine. Next thing that we have to do is go on browser, search for install Jenkins. First link that comes, click on that, and from there you can click on the based like what kind of Linux machine you are having, or if you are having any other machine, you can select from here. So I'm going with the first one. Copy the commands, and also team, please do not use OpenJDK 11, you might face some issues. Okay, so I'll copy this command, come back here, and here we can run the command to install Jenkins. Okay, So now it's going to install. Meanwhile, this is getting done. Let me go back to server 1, and here you can see the Terraform command that we run to create our cluster that is being done, right? Now let us say I want to access my cluster. So how we can access it? First of all, we need to make sure we have 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 present on my machine, because this will be the CLI to interact with Kubernetes cluster. So we are installing using snap, that means ---- classic is mandatory. Okay. Now the thing is, cluster we have created, but we have not yet connected to the cluster. So if I try to run the command like 𝗂𝗶𝗃 get nodes or something, it's going to give error. Let me show you. If I run here 𝗂𝗶𝗃 get nodes, and you can see it says connection refused, because as I say, we have not yet connected to EKS cluster. So what we have to do for authentication to Kubernetes cluster, we need to have the kubeconfig file that contains the configuration and everything with respect to Kubernetes cluster. So how do we get that file? So for that you have to run another command, which is, where is it, 1 second. Yeah, this command we have to run. Basically what it does, it's going to set up a kubeconfig file for your cluster. So the format is AWS EKS ---- provide the region that where you have created the cluster, then write update kubeconfig -- name. So in this -- name you have to provide the cluster name, which we have DevOps cluster. Okay, copy that and run here first. As soon as you run, then this kubeconfig, you can see kubeconfig file has been added. And now if I run this 𝗂𝗶𝗃 get nodes, we should be able to get the details. You can see here worker nodes are present of version 1.30.2. Okay, so now we have connected to Kubernetes as well, right? Coming back to Jenkins. So Jenkins is installed, but we need to configure it. How do we do that? So first we can access Jenkins. We can access Jenkins using the IP address, which is this one. Okay, and by default Jenkins is going to be get set up on port 8080. So we can get access to that as well, and you can see Jenkins is running, right? But we have to configure it now. So initial, you will be, in order to get started with Jenkins, first you will be needing initial admin password, which will be stored on this location. Copy this path. Now where folder is the folder that will require elevated permission. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run the command sudo cat. Okay, and then we get the initial admin password. Using cat command, we can view the contents of this file, right? Copy that and paste it here. Okay, now we have to select the we have to customize Jenkins. So for that, always go with the first one, install suggested plugins. Click on that. Now this is going to install the minimum mandatory tools for plugins for Jenkins to work well. Okay, so that now we have to wait for some time based on your whatever machine you have taken and what is the network speed that you are having. It may take some time. Okay, so once this part is completed, we will be back. So team, coming back here, Jenkins plugins has been installed and we need to provide the first admin user. So you can provide whatever username you want. Password you can set up, and then again set up confirm password, then full name you can set up. Email address you can put it anything as per your own requirement. Okay, it's not going to be verified immediately. Now click on save and continue. So Jenkins is also set up. Now we can get started by writing our first pipeline. Okay, now in order to write this pipeline, what we have to do, we have to install certain plugins first. Which plugins? If I go to manage Jenkins plugins, and now one by one certain plugins I'm going to install, which make sure that you note down and you are installing at that as well. Okay, so now first plugin that we need to install is going to be SonarQube plugin, SonarQube scanner. Okay, after that make sure to install the config file provider. Then make sure that you are installing Maven integration and pipeline Maven integration. Okay, and after that make sure you are installing Kubernetes plugin. We have this. Okay, And once you have added these plugins, I think they should be more than enough. So we can just click on install and let's wait for them to get completed. Once they are done, then we can some out of these plugins, some of them we need to configure. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. Okay, yeah, almost done only. Okay, go back to manage Jenkins, go to tools section, and here we have to configure. Now JDK, I have not installed any separate plugin for it because during the Jenkins installation, one JDK is available by default, so we will just use that. Okay, scroll down to SonarQube scanner installation, provide a name which is going to be sonar-scanner. Version based on your requirement you can select. I am just going with the latest one. Then we have Maven. Here provide the name as Maven 3 or any other name and make sure like version you are selecting. Okay, one more plugin which we need to install, which I just forgot, and that is Docker plugin. So we'll go here, click on Docker, select this, and then select this one. These two plugins, make sure you're installing. Okay, and going here, tool section, at the end we should be able to see Docker. Okay, configure it, provide any name you want, Docker, click on install automatically and select the first one. Okay, here we have installed. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up Docker on the virtual machine of Jenkins as well. I can, now what I want to set up latest version only. Okay, because here if I try to install directly, its version is not latest. So latest we need to install. We can go on browser, search for Docker install Ubuntu, click on the first link, scroll down, and you will find this. So copy this. This is going to add the repository in your Linux machine. Okay, and once this is completed, you can run last command, which is this one, to install Docker. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete, and this command will install Docker on our machine. Now what I want Ubuntu user to have permission. Two things we can do, as I've told before. Either we can specifically add permission for Ubuntu user, or we can run this command to give permission to other users as well. So just for demo purpose, I'm going to go with this. Copy that. Okay, and now we are good to go. Now coming back to Jenkins, so now we can get started by writing our pipeline. So we can click on new job, and here I'm going to write let's say full stack. Okay, select this so that we can start writing our pipeline. And as part of best practice, make sure that you are keeping only 2 builds in the history. Okay, scroll down, and here we can get started with hello world pipeline because it's much easier to work with. So once you have created, first thing you should do is create multiple stages, because we'll be needing that. Multiple stages we have to write, right? So I can create 6-7 stages. Okay, one thing you should remember, no two stages should have same name. As of now it's same, but we are going to modify it later. Okay, now here first stage we want is the git checkout, basically creating a local copy of the source code inside Jenkins. So that we can name as git checkout, and here we have to write the steps. If you are new, you can go ahead with pipeline syntax, and from here you can get the commands. You can expand, go to git, and here we can provide repository URL where we can get. So yeah, this is the project that we are going to work with, right? So I will copy this, paste it here, and the branch that I want to work with is main. Credential is not needed because it's public. Copy that, and we are good to go. So first stage is git checkout, that is done. Second stage that I want to perform is basically checkout. If they check, I want to find out if there is any error in the source code or not. Error is basically I'm referring to syntax based errors. So for that we have to run the command mvn compile. but we need to make sure to tell Jenkins that this command that I have written, it's a shell command. So treat it as a shell command. How we can do that? We can enclose this command in shell block. For that, sh, and here we can write quotes, we can enclose it inside shell block. Now Jenkins will understand, okay, this is the command that I need to run as shell. Okay, that is done. Next up we have test cases. Okay, now the thing is ki if test cases are written and they are working fine, you'll be able to run them simply by the command, this one, sh then mvn test. But in case test cases are failing and you want to test your application, we have one option using which we can skip the test cases for the time being. For that, I can add -d skip test equal to true. This will run all this like phases till compile only, but it will not run test cases. Okay, in case test cases are fixed, you can simply remove this and this will run again. After that, what I want to do, after that I want to perform 𝗵𝗃 file system scan. Okay, now, so as you remember, we have not yet set up 𝗵𝗃. Now for 𝗵𝗃, the thing is that 𝗵𝗃 for 𝗵𝗃 there is no specific plugin for Jenkins as of now. That means we need to install 𝗵𝗃 directly on the virtual machine. So how do we install it? We can go on browser. Here we can search 𝗵𝗃 install Ubuntu or something like that. Click on the first link and here scroll down till you find the relevant Linux OS. Okay, so I'll copy this and this is going to install 𝗵𝗃 on my virtual machine, because once we install here, then it will be available for usage directly in the pipeline. Okay, so it's done. We can just confirm by running the command 𝗵𝗃 version, and here we can see we have installed 0.54.1. Coming back to pipeline, now I can write 𝗵𝗃 commands here. So I can use again shell block. Here I can write 𝗵𝗃 fs because file system we want to scan, right? After that, we need to define in which format you want the report to be generated. Format means, for example, it can be directly in paragraph format, it can be in tabular format. I want the format to be table because it's much easier to read in tabular format. Then I need to define in what file we want the report to be generated. So I'll write -o, then I'll write fs-report.html. I want the report to be generated in HTML format. After that, the directory you need to provide which directory you want to scan. So I'll just put a dot. That means I want to scan the current directory. Next step we have to add is going to be for SonarQube. So I'll write SonarQube analysis. Okay. Now, so before SonarQube analysis, one more thing I'll tell you, that whichever tool you want to utilize here, unless that tool is installed directly on this virtual machine, we need to define it here. That means if the tool is, for example, like 𝗵𝗃, if I want to use 𝗵𝗃, I have directly installed on the virtual machine, right? So here nowhere I have defined that I'm going to use 𝗵𝗃, right? But since I'm using 𝗵𝗁, but I have not installed 𝗵𝗁 here, but I have installed 𝗵𝗁 by configuring it inside like the tool section of Jenkins. In that case, 𝗵𝗁 is going to be a third-party plugin. So for 𝗵𝗁, we need to define in the pipeline using tools block. The format is first tool type, which is 𝗵𝗁, and tool name that we configured was 𝗵𝗁3. Now 𝗵𝗁 will be available for usage. Okay. Now we have to define SonarQube scanner tool. But you might be thinking, Aditya, why you are not adding it here? So in tool block, we need to add the tools. Those are managed by Jenkins. SonarQube scanner tool is not the tool that is being managed by Jenkins, right? So in that case, what we have to do, we have to define SonarQube scanner in a different way. Okay. How we can define it? So we can define it using a environment variable. Environment. And inside this, we can define our SonarQube scanner tool, right? What we can do, how we can define? So we need to create a variable that should be pointing to home directory of SonarQube tool. Okay, that we can do using scanner_home home equal to tool and the tool name. Tool name is Sonar Scanner. That is what we have configured inside the tool section of Jenkins, right? Once we have defined it, we can save it. One more thing we have to do, basically we have to connect from Jenkins to here. How we can do that? So for that we can go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, system. Now inside system we need to configure the server. How we can do that? If I scroll down, you'll be able to find this SonarQube servers, right? Click on add SonarQube, provide a name like this, Sonar, and here we need to provide URL as well as the credential. Okay, how do we get URL? That we can get right from here. I can copy this and I can paste it here. URL we can get from where we are getting credentials. For that you need to go to administration, security, users, and generate the token. Here we can provide token name. Now this token is the one that we are going to use, so I'll copy that, click on here. So here we are not able to save, you are not able to add here, so just simply click on save, go to manage Jenkins, scroll down to credentials, global, add credentials, kind will be secret text because it's just a token. Provide the token here. In ID we can write sonar-token. Same thing we can write inside the description. Click on create. Now we can go back to manage Jenkins, system, and now we can connect, right? You can see we can now provide. So click on apply. Coming back here inside the SonarQube analysis stage. So here we have to write the steps for SonarQube analysis. For that we can take help from pipeline syntax. Here you will find something with SonarQube environment. You can see this one with SonarQube, right? Click on that, generate, and copy that. But this is not the one that we are going to use. We have to modify it basically. See here basically as you remember that we have already configured. If I go here, manage Jenkins, system, we have already configured SonarQube server here, right? This is the server this is the SonarQube server which we have configured here. That means if I need to use this, if I need to publish my report on this server, I can simply provide the name of the server in this block. How we can do? Simply this, and that's all. That means ki now whatever things you run inside this block with SonarQube environment block, that report will be published to SonarQube server with this name. Okay. Now we can write as such. And here we can, first of all, we need to provide call the scanner executable file. SonarQube scanner home directory is this one. So inside home directory, we will be having a folder, bin folder. Inside bin folder, we'll be having a Sonar scanner executable file that we have to call here. How we can do? Variable, how do we call? Using $. What is the variable name? Scanner home, right? /bin/ sonar-scanner. That is done. Now we need to add certain parameters. -d sonar.project name and capital. Remember that name. Let's say I want to give multi-tier. Okay. Another parameter that we have to add, d sonar.project key, k capital, and again we can give the same name, multi-tier. Okay. One last thing that we have to add here, which is going to be d sonar.java.binaries. Why we have to provide Java binaries file? Because we need to tell SonarQube that the Java binaries file, the class files are exactly where. So they will be existing inside target folder. Okay. Now this is what SonarQube analysis will be configured. Okay. Now what stage next we have to configure? So for that I have to create again multiple stages. Let's create. Okay. So next what I want to build my project to get the artifact jar file inside the local target folder. So I'll write build, and here I have to write the command sh (mvn package). Maven package it's going to build, but again, as you remember in Maven, when we run the commands, it's going to run previous phases. That means it's going to run the test cases also. But as I said, test cases might be failing because they are not written properly. So how we can avoid that? We can write -d skip test equal to true. So what it's going to do, it's going to run all the phases, even package phase will run, but test cases will be skipped. Okay. Now what I want my artifact to be published to Nexus. So I can write publish to Nexus. So for that, what we have to do, let me explain you. For that, let me save this pipeline. So now we have to go to Nexus, so we have these two repositories, releases and snapshot, that we are going to use. Okay. So first I'll copy the Maven releases URL. I'll copy that, go to project, go to pom.xml file. Now you should be able to find this section. If you are not able to find, make sure that you are copying this repository section on your local so that later on we can utilize. Okay. So what we have to do here, we have to provide the repo URLs. First we have Maven releases. So I'll provide the repo URL here, right? Then Maven snapshot repo URL, which you can get again from here. Sorry. And that as well we have to add. See, URL we have provided. Now what we have to provide? We have to provide the credential to access, right? Then only we'll be able to publish our artifacts. So where do we get the credentials? So for that we have to go back to Jenkins, manage Jenkins. Then you'll see this option, managed files. Click on that, click on add new config, click on Maven settings. Okay. So see, this is like global level. This is just specific references. This is not this is within Maven project. So I'm going to go with global level. Click on that, and here we can provide the ID name as settings Maven, or anything you can put. It's up to you what name you want to give. Click on next. It's going to create a settings.xml file where we need to configure the credentials. Credential for what? For accessing Nexus. So I can scroll down till we find something section as server. You see this section, right? Cut this. You can add this. Okay. So two sections of this we are going to create, where we are going to add the credentials. First is going to be Maven releases. Basically, when we talk about ID, it's going to be same as repo name. So we have repo name as Maven releases, right? And then we have to provide the username and password. Username is admin, right? And password, let me just confirm if I have the correct password. Sign in, admin, password is, let's try. Okay, password I have the correct one, so I can add it here. Password is going to be Aditya, caps. Okay. Similarly, let me copy this here, and this will be snapshots. Okay. So we have added the Nexus repo URL as well as the Nexus repo credentials. Okay. Now what we can do, so save this and let's take help from pipeline syntax. Here we need to select with Maven. Where is it? You can see this with Maven. Select that. Select the configurations that is needed, and here we need to select this one. Okay. This is the file that we just configured, settings.xml file. So generate this block, copy that, add it in your pipeline. Okay. So we have added it now, right? And here, see, if you remember, we configured Maven settings file, right? Settings-Maven, same file we have added here. Here what I can write, sh quotes mvn deploy, and this is going to build the artifact and deploy it to Nexus, right? Now again, test cases are still failing. That means we need to skip it. So I can skip test equal to true. This will make sure to build the application but avoid running the test cases. Okay. Now once this is done, next step that we can proceed with is going to be docker build, a docker build image. Okay, we want to build image and tag it, so we can write it here. So I can yeah, here it is, right? So we can take help from pipeline syntax. Here we can take select this one with docker registry, select that. Credentials we have not yet added, right? So credentials we can add, click on Jenkins, and you need to add your Docker Hub credentials. I can add by username and password. Let me confirm. Okay, and here we can provide a name like Docker Cred. Okay, click on add, generate, and this is the block inside which we need to write everything. But Docker is one of the commands that you have to enclose inside a script block. Okay, so here now we will paste it, and now we can write our Docker commands here. Okay, so let's do that. I can write the command. Okay, this is not correct actually, because credential is not yet added here, right? That means select the credentials and now generate the block, and now we can add it. Okay, now this looks good. And here now we can build our Docker image. sh docker build -t. Docker image name is 𝗖𝗫𝗂𝗃 bank app :latest and a dot. This will make sure ki dot refers to the Docker file, the directory of the Docker file. That means dot means it exists in the current directory. Okay, so we are building it and tagging it also. Next stage that we want to add is basically to scan the Docker image before we push it. So what I can do, I can copy this stage, scroll down, and here I can paste it. This will be privy image scan. Okay, and here instead of fs write image, and then instead of dot we need to write the Docker image name that we want to scan, which is this one. So I'll copy that, paste it here. Now this image will be scanned for vulnerabilities. Okay, once scanning is done, we want to push our Docker image to Docker Hub repository. That we can do here, add stage, change this to Docker push, and here I can write Docker push image name. Make sure that you are removing the end dot. Okay, now this will make sure to build the Docker image, tag it, scan it, and then push it to Docker Hub repository. Click on apply. Now this part is done. Now what is pending? So what we want now, in order to go for, when we talk about security, we need to make sure that everything is secure. Plus on Kubernetes side, the best option that we can go ahead with is using RBAC, role-based access control, so that not everyone is having permission to perform the deployment, and only specific account will be having permission to perform the deployment. So we are going to set up that account and give it permission. So let me show you how we can do that. Now team, in order to get started with the Kubernetes stages, what we have to do, we have to set up RBAC completely. Okay, so here first of all I'll go to the server from where we are like communicating with EKS cluster. Okay, so here I'm going to create a directory named RBAC. Sorry, let me create. Okay, I can just rename this, sorry about that. Okay, so we have this folder, we can go inside this RBAC folder. Okay, and first we are going to set up a service account. So we need to create a service account. Steps, it will be in the document obviously. So okay, so now you can see here we are creating a service account named Jenkins, and we are creating it inside web apps namespace. That means we need to create a web apps namespace. We can run the command kubectl create namespace web apps. Okay, it's done. Next thing that we have to do, now we can run the command to create the service account, which is going to be this one. So I'll copy this 𝗖cie_𝗱𝗲𝗃. We can add the content inside it, save this, and we can create it by 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 apply-f in the YAML file. Okay, service account created. Now what we have to do, now we have to create a role. Now inside the role we'll define what kind of permissions this role will be having. For example, I'm giving the permission to perform get, list, watch, create, update, patch and delete on what things. These are the resources. Okay, and when I create, after I have created this role, I'm going to assign this role to the newly created service account. Okay, so first let us create the role. I'll copy here and vi role.yaml, paste it here, save this, and then 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 apply-f then role. Okay, now role is created. Now what we want, that this role should be assigned to the service account. That means we need to bind the role to the service account. For that we need to create bind.yaml, which will be this one. So this will be bind.yaml and we can add it here. Okay, and we can apply this 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 apply-f bind.yaml. Okay, one second, key should be small, I guess. Sorry about that. Okay, now the service account Jenkins is having the permission to perform everything. Okay, one last thing that we have to do, in order to use Jenkins for deployment, we need to create a token for Jenkins. That we can do it by going to the official page of Kubernetes for creating the secrets. So I'll copy that URL, go to browser and go on this official page. Here you see this this file secret YAML. So we have to create this. So I'm going to copy this vi sec.yaml and paste it here. Now few things we have to modify. At the end you can see this is the service account name, but in our case the service account is named Jenkins, right? Let me just check if Jenkins capital J, okay, small j, fine. So now, and yeah, this is here nowhere we have defined the namespace, right? So what we can do, we can save this, we can apply 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 apply-f sec.yaml -n web apps. I'm saying that this secret should be created inside web apps namespace. Okay, now created. Now we can get the token out of it. 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃 describe, then secret, then the secret name. Secret name is my secret name, right? And in which namespace it exists? It exists inside web apps. Now here you see this. This is the token that we can use for authentication. So we can copy this. We can go to Jenkins, go to dashboard, sorry, so go to configure, let me close this and go to pipeline syntax. Here search for something with respect to Kubernetes. Okay, so select this one with kubeconfig. Credentials we have to set, click on this Jenkins and kind will be secret text, add the token, ID will be K8 token, copy that, put it in description as well, click on add, select the token. Now server endpoint, so this you will be able to get, we have set up inside EKS, right? So we can go on AWS account, go to EKS, open this, scroll down, you can see here API server endpoint, so copy that and paste it here. Then cluster name, cluster name is what? This is the cluster name, so copy that as well, paste here. Context name, leave it. Namespace we can put as web apps, and yeah, click on generate. Now this is the block inside which we can write our commands to perform the deployment. So I'll copy this, go at the end, and here I can paste. Okay, and this name will be deploy to Kubernetes. Okay, now let me explain you a little bit about the YAML manifest files that we are going to use. For that, you can go to this one, go to ds.yaml. Okay, here two things you'll be able to see very clearly. This is the MySQL deployment file. Okay, inside MySQL deployment file, first of all, we are using a MySQL Docker image, and here you can see clearly environments added, two important environments. First, root password. Okay, we are going to use root username by default, and we have set up a password for that and a database name also. Then only we'll be able to connect. Okay, now what we have to do, see, this is going to be database pod, but our application pod should be able to connect to it. So how it's going to connect? So one thing that you know, see, if I show you through a diagram, it will be more clear. Let us say this is my pod 1. Okay, and you know each pod will be associated with a service. Okay, this is pod 2, it is also associated with its own service. Now if pod 1 and pod 2 need to communicate, they cannot directly communicate, so they have to communicate through service. Why this is so? Because let us say that I want to communicate through IP addresses, pod 1 and pod 2, but the thing is, if pod 1 restarted or recreated, IP address is going to change, while on service that does not change. That means let us say this is my MySQL database pod. Okay, and it has a service, let's say 𝗵𝗁 SVC or something, and let us say this is my application pod. Okay, and this is its service. Now if application pod needs to communicate with MySQL database, so how it's going to refer? It's going to refer through service. Okay, that means we need to have the service name of MySQL for communication. Same thing is being done here. You can see this is the deployment pod and this is the service. So service name is MySQL service. That means my application, if it's want to communicate with the database, it needs to communicate with this service name. Same thing, let me show you. If I scroll down here, you see a data source URL. This is the database URL, and here you see this specific name. This is the service name that we have written. Okay, and this is how my application pod is going to communicate with database. Okay, and yeah, this is the one. We just need to change one thing, which is Docker image name. Okay, what is the image name that we have set up here? 𝗵𝗁𝗁𝗂𝗃 bank app latest. I can copy this. I know a lot of you might be thinking, Aditya, we have not yet automated this. We can do that, but for this video I have not done that. Maybe in next video we'll be doing that. Okay, because the main highlight of this video to show you how we can set up SSL certificates, right? Okay, so this is done. We can just simply save this. Once we have done that, make sure to note down the name ds.yaml, and we can go back here, and now here we can write sh kubectl apply -f, then ds.yaml. Okay, if you want, you can put -n just to make sure that it's getting deployed to namespace web apps, even though we have defined here web apps. Okay, just for the namesake I'm written here. Okay, next what I want, that once this deployment is getting done, there will be 30 seconds. For that 30 seconds this pipeline will just sleep. Okay, and once this is done, next thing that I want to do is basically verify after that deployment. So I can write next stage, which is going to be verify deployment. Okay, here what I can write, here I can write two commands, kubectl get pods, and second command that I can write get svc. Okay, Now everything we have added as of now, like all the stages and everything. Let me just confirm. Okay, seems fine to me. Let us save this and let us apply. If an issue comes, we'll try to fix it. Okay, so the pipeline has started, and yeah, this will take little bit of time because this is the first time we are running, and it is possible that some issue might also come. But as I say, if issue comes, okay. One more thing, team, as I have told multiple times, here you can see there is no stage view. So how we can get stage view? Click on dashboard, manage Jenkins, go to plugins. Here we can search for stage view. Just install this plugin, and then you will be able to see the pipeline status in stage format. Okay, we can go here, see the status, and you can see it's running. Okay, and analysis done. We can go to SonarQube. Here it's able to find the issues fine. Okay, Nexus publish also happened, so we can go to Nexus as well. Browse, snapshot. We have the jar file here as well, so it's now we have issue in Docker build image, right? So let us see what exactly is the issue there. I can go at the end. Did the issue failed to solve, failed to read Docker file open? No such file, no such file or directory. Okay, so it's saying that there is no Docker file present. Okay, so let us go to our repository, and here, okay, so here we don't have Docker file as of now. Okay, so what we can do, we can create a Docker file. How we can do that? I can just go to another repository and I can utilize the Docker file. I can take this Docker file, copy this, and I can put it here in the main branch. Plus create new file, contents here, and this will be Docker file. Okay, you can see that its content is the same only, it's not so much different. We are taking a JDK 17 Eclipse to median image, Alpine version, port 8080, and we are copying the jar file. Okay, save this, and then we can run our pipeline one more time, and let's see. See, that's what I'm always saying, team, ki if you are getting issues, do not worry. Okay, it may not work, or we have to just leave it. Just try to troubleshoot any little bit, because you know, when you check the logs, you'll find most of the information about why the pipeline fails or something. You'll find all those information in the logs itself. Okay, so let's wait for this. Let's check the logs from here also, we can check, right? And now it's able to find Docker image and it's building also, so it's good. Docker image is getting scanned by Trivi, and it will generate the report. It's quite late, I'm recording this video actually. It's almost 4 now. Okay, yeah, Trivi taking a little bit more time. Let's just okay, so Trivi is also done, and we have Docker push now. After this, we'll be deploying the project to EKS cluster that we have created. Okay, we have some issue, 𝗂𝗶CTL not found, right? See, why this error is coming, because we are running our command deployment on Jenkins, right? And by default, Jenkins is not having 𝗂𝗶CTL present. So that means we need to install 𝗂𝗶CTL here. We can run the command 𝗂𝗶CTL, and we get the commands to install this, and as I say, make sure to add the classic. Okay, and this will install 𝗂𝗶𝗃𝗃, and as I have told before also, okay, whatever tool you install directly on the virtual machine of Jenkins, it will be available within the pipeline without any like separate definition we don't have to do. Okay, yeah, so this is done, and this time let me run this. This time it should be able to perform the deployment. Okay, so let's wait for this. This might take a little bit more time. Okay, so SonarQube analysis is running. Let's check the detailed logs so that we can. Okay, so here deployment is done. Okay, you can see service for MySQL and project both has been done, created for deployment as well as service. Okay, and it's sleeping now for 30 seconds. Why I did that? Because I want that deployment may take more time depending on size of your project. Deployment may take more time, so for that I wanted to make sure that when deployment is done, it will wait for 30 seconds, and later on after 30 seconds we can verify. So here we can verify that application is deployed, and we can see that pod is running, and we have one restart also. Let's just confirm everything. So here I'll run kubectl get pods -n web apps. Okay, we have some restart, some issue might be there, so let's check the issue. kubectl logs, and this one, why it's having issue, we can check. Sorry, this should be -n web apps. Okay, started bank app, it's saying it's running only. Okay, let us check the logs for the MySQL pod. kubectl logs, and this is the MySQL pod. Sorry about that, -n. They are deployed in web apps namespace. I keep forgetting that. Okay, this also seems fine. So let's do one thing. Let us try to access this application using this load balancer URL. Copy that, paste it here. Okay, application is running, right? Let me show you the what exactly we can do. So I click on register here. Let's say I'll provide username. I create a username and password. Okay, and let us create another user, which is going to be ABC. Okay, now we can log in with one user, Adi. Okay, we have logged in, right? Now what I want to deposit some money. Let's say I'll write 500. Okay, so as of now we are having current balance, right? But let's say I want to transfer this some money to some other user, the other user that I created, ABC, right? Click on this. We can withdraw also. Let's say I want to withdraw $50. Click on that. 450 is existing, right? And here transaction, we can see what has been done. Second thing that we can do, we can provide the username ABC that we just created. I want to transfer $100. Click on submit. That is done. Click on transaction, and here $100 gone. How we can verify this? We can log in using ABC user. Click on login, and you can see $100 is present. Transactions, only one transaction, transfer in from Adi. Okay, so see, basically this application is quite good. It has the database connected also, MySQL database. Okay, so it's working fine. Now the most important part, how we can configure SSL certificate and custom domain. Okay, so let me explain you a little bit through diagrammatic structure so that it becomes a little bit clear. So as of now we are having load balancer URL. Okay, and in load balancer URL You can see clearly it is saying not secure. There is no certificate, right? That means it is HTTP. So here first thing that I'm going to do is map a custom domain. Map custom domain. So how we can do that? So first of all, you need to purchase a domain. Okay, I have purchased it from GoDaddy because from there it's easier to manage actually. Okay, so once we have purchased a domain, you need to make some configurations on the domain side so that my domain will point to load balancer URL. Okay, so team, now let me explain about how we can configure how we can perform the domain mapping for our URL. Okay, so generally when we deploy an application, then two cases could be there. Either once we deploy, we can get a load balancer URL which looks something like this. Okay, this is kind of URL we may get. Okay, which is obviously not easy to remember. When it comes to domain mapping, yeah, that is one case. We can get a URL. Second case is that we can get an external IP address. Okay, these two things could be there, one URL, one IP address. Okay, so when we want to map a domain and we have received a IP address, then we have to use a record. Okay, if we have received a URL and that we want to configure inside the DNS, then we have to use CNAME record. Remember this because that's where it's going to be most useful. Now, for example, if I go here, like I have opened one of my domains, and in DNS records, we have these options. Okay. So if I want to add my custom domain, I need to click on add record. And since we have received the URL, right, custom URL, load balancer URL, right? So we are going to use CNAME right here as www, so that whole URL will be www.soandso.com. Here we can paste the load balancer URL and that's all. That's how we configure. In case we had the IP address, then we can write this. We can provide here IP address. Second record again, we have to add here. This time we will write @ and here IP address. Now you might be asking why I am writing @ and www, because our URL may be in this format. For example, like let's say I have purchased a domain 𝗖cie.com. Okay, so when I configure @ in a record, then I can go on the I can use this URL in this format 𝗖cie.com. When I configure www, then I can use the URL in this format www.𝗖cie.com. Okay, so for that we have to configure. So I hope it's clear, like when we are going to use CNAME record, when we are going to use a record. Okay, now let us see how we can configure in real time. Our application is running over a load balancer URL. Okay, so what we need to do, first of all, we need to add that load balancer URL to a custom domain. We have to map it. For that, I can go to GoDaddy. You can purchase a domain that you can utilize. Okay, what I'm going to do, I have multiple domains, so I'll select one domain and I'm clicking on manage DNS. Okay, here in manage DNS, what we can do, I have told you before that if you have a URL which you want to map to custom domain, then you have to add a CNAME record. If you are having an IP address which you want to map to custom domain, you have to add a record. So in our case, we are having we are going to add a C record. Why? Because CNAME record. Why? Because we are having a load balancer URL. So click on this, select CNAME here, put www and paste the URL here. Okay, and let me check the URL. Everything seems fine. Simply click on save. Okay, we are having one thing already, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this first. Okay, and I'm going to save this again. Now let's wait for this to complete. Now this has been added. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to wait for some time because the changes for this, it may take some time to propagate. Okay, so team, now what we can do, we can go to a website like DNS checker, provide your URL. Here I have provided www.𝗁𝗂𝗄𝗏. Why www? Because that's what we have put in the name section for CNAME, right? Okay, same thing we can check here by running the command as ns lookup, then www.𝗁𝗂𝗄𝗏. And here you can see it is pointing to our load balancer URL. That means it is working fine. Same thing we can verify here. You can see the application is accessible over this, but it is not secure. So now what we have to do, we have to go to Cloudflare and here we have to add our domain. The domain we have to add www.shackwords.co. Okay, I'll add this. Click on continue. Okay, so we have to remove this, I guess. Okay, click on continue and let's wait for this. Okay, so now you have to go at the bottom, select the free version, because you can use this to get a free certificate. Click on this, continue, and let's wait for this. Okay, now it has fetched different details from our that GoDaddy website, and here click on continue. So basically here you can see what is happening now. We have to update our name servers to activate Cloudflare. Okay, what things we have to do? So we have to add new name servers, which are these two. Okay, where we can get it? So we can go back here, click on this name servers, and as of now these two are added. Okay, so we have to change them and we have to add, see these two name servers are already added, so we have to add these new ones. Okay, so I'll click on this, copy that, go back here and click on change name servers, click on this, provide name server 1, which we just copied. Second name server is going to be this one. Okay, copy that as well, paste it here and click on save. Now let's wait for this, continue. Okay, just to verify, if I go back here, still not yet, it's not yet like a change, so I'll refresh the page because these changes may take some time to reflect. Okay, now this is showing fine. Okay, we can go back here, we can click on this, continue. Okay, so team, once we have changed the name servers, one more thing we can do, go to this recommendations, you will see this option quick start guide, click on that, click on get started. Okay, and here we just need to save this, whatever settings coming, we have to save them. Yeah, and this first all requests, I'll enable that, click on save, click on finish. Okay, so this is also done. And okay, as I say, this like name server update, this may take few minutes, so we have to wait for some time. So team, after few minutes or at least 10 to 15 minutes wait, and after that on overview page you will see the status active, as well as you will see here great news, Cloudflare is now protecting your site. Now we have to go to SSL/TLS, click on Edge certificates, scroll down, and here you will see this option always use HTTPS. So make sure that it is enabled. In case you missed it previously, make sure that it is enabled now. Okay, once we have done that, and now we can go back to our website. Where is it? Yeah, this one. I can click on refresh. So after refresh, you'll be able to see here this is secure now. Okay, and now we are using the URL HTTPS. Okay, so this is one of the easiest way using which we can configure SSL certificate and make our URL secure. Okay, so now the application is secure, like accessing URL is completely secure. You can see connection is secure. Okay, so yeah, I hope this was useful for you as well, and if it was, then make sure to give it a like, and if you're new on the channel, make sure to subscribe. So thanks for watching team, and have a nice day.